In this video, you'll see us go from a 2-line prompt in Claude Design to a full-fledged working application that's published on GitHub. All right, so here's where we start. I gave Claude Design a 2-sentence prompt: build a prototype for a tool called Agent Room, an observability dashboard for AI coding agents. From there, Claude decided to refine this out a little bit further. This is a very robust, multi-step process to refine the vision up front, which I think is a really powerful thing within this platform. And you'll see here, I'll just scroll down through some of the decisions I made. So a live grid of all running agents that we want to see, maybe in the realm of 10 to 50 agents that we might have that we want to be managing at a typical time. For signals that matter most, I just picked some high-level things that might be important to us. Here you'll see the next question was asked about actions that we should be able to take. And we could do any of these as well. So we'll pick maybe replay a step. For the aesthetic direction, I figured terminal or monospace would be nice. And then how alive should it feel? Again, these are kind of interesting. I sometimes don't have a preference. So we could say decide for me, which I love that, opt out to let Claude decide what the prototype should look like. And again, this is just a prototype. It helps us refine our vision and we can iterate on that later. For the variations, this concept of tweaks within Claude Design is pretty cool, where it shows you an interactive pop-up essentially overlaid on the prototype that will allow us to change different aspects of it. So right away, I know that having a light and dark mode might be nice. I don't think that we need to necessarily do a density tweak, but I thought a color accent would be interesting too. So pretty cool there. And maybe we could do something like a speed of live updates. That sounds kind of fun. For the kinds of agent tasks that we want to mock out, I picked these top rows, but we could, again, just select whatever we'd like, and then how novel we would want the UX to be. So I think this is pretty cool based off of the prototype one-liner about an agent room. It was like, how much should we lean into this, or how novel should it be? I like a mix of both, so let's go with conventional and novel. And for this last one, treat the agent room as, I think is a pretty fun one. I'm not sure really what I want to see here. Room metaphor could be interesting. So maybe let's pick that one. We're going to go ahead and launch this. It'll work for a few minutes. We'll come back and I'll let you get to review this with me as it finishes up. Okay, so now we've got the design implemented. Claude has gone through our questions that we gave responses to, and it has generated out these components and page files. And here we go. So we have a fully interactive prototype. We can view different terminals of agents, their activities. We can see the different human feedback notifications, whether or not we want to approve or reject items. And yeah, it's pretty awesome how in just a matter of moments, we have something this interactive, and we can go through and actually step through, I think, different playbacks of agents. We can filter them down to ones like failed, look at them. And I added this little input box to simulate if we would be sending a message to an agent potentially. As we saw in the questions, we refined some of the tweaks we'd want to be able to do. So a dark mode and light mode. We would have the ability to change the accent color, which is kind of interesting. And then this was just a live updates, I think frequency. Not sure this is actually doing too much to the frequency, but nonetheless, it's pretty fun. So the density here, we can also adjust. Think comfy, given the amount of text here, it's kind of overwhelming in general. So maybe that's something we can refine in this area. We could simplify some of that. So let's try some of these features up here. So we have the comment feature, the edit feature, and the draw feature. I guess let's try comment. And yeah, let's go ahead and see if it can narrow down to one of these. So I'm going to dictate this using Super Whisper. Please simplify the agent view so that it's not as busy and we can comprehend what's going on when looking at many agents at one time. So we'll see if Claude is able to take that input and apply that to all of those agent previews that we're seeing on this dashboard. For me, it's just a little bit much to see all at once. I do like the ability to look into the terminals. I think that's pretty cool. In practicality, though, might be a little bit much, but it's leaning into the terminal theme, and I appreciate that. So this comment feature is pretty cool, allowing for that agentic edit experience versus manual. But as that's going, let's just look at this edit view. So this is pretty sweet. Similarly, I can select other items within the view and then have this full editability of the HTML element. So pretty cool how they did this. I haven't seen all the variations of this panel, but I do believe it's just anything that can be applied to an HTML element is essentially editable in this panel. So we can change the font type, and we can do any other kind of changes you see on the screen. So pretty intuitive to use, maybe similar to a Figma panel or other kind of editors. So for designers or front-end engineers, this might be nice just to do some edits for like particular headers or some individual components they want to adjust. So pretty cool feature there. The draw feature for me, I haven't really leaned into this one much, but it is kind of interesting. So if there was something like on the screen we didn't love, maybe I want to adjust these tags. I think they're a little distracting. So let's try to draw around one. You just start typing, I guess. And I'll send that. And I think I would queue it if Claude Design was still working, but it did simplify our design, it said. It looks a little bit, I guess, cleaner here, maybe less distracting with all of the rapid lines underneath the bottom. I think that's mostly what I'm seeing changed here, which I do kind of appreciate. So let's send this and see what happens. This is the first time I'm testing this feature. So we circled that. I do think those are a little distracting and maybe competing with some primary input requests over here. So I'd prefer that to be cleaned up a little bit. Okay, that is not looking great. Let's see what it decided to do. So when I asked it to tone down the shared tags, it ended up removing my terminal and reverting back to our kind of busy look there. So not a great experience with the lassoing draw tool. Honestly, it seems like this being a research preview, I think this is an interesting feature, but maybe something that I would avoid using right now and just stick to, I think the comments feature worked pretty well, but overall, that one seems to be a little shaky right now. All in all, I kind of like this layout. I think it could be interesting. You have the ability to share this out to different people on your team to get feedback. So you can export it, you can share it, you can hand it off to Claude Code, which maybe I'll show that in just a second, for us to be able to ingest these files from the design and maybe create a product requirement document and dream up what kind of backend might support this or agent frameworks, et cetera. So let's do that next. So exporting to Claude Code, it basically is just creating a share link and an instruction. So this could be any agent that you want to hand this off to. Everything here is intended to be handed off to Claude and all the things, but you can basically do this however you want. So I think downloading a zip could just be fine as well, but let's copy this command and go over to Claude Code. So here we are in VS Code. I just created a folder called Agent Room. I just wanted to see what it would be like to export those artifacts from our design and bring it into VS Code or using Claude Code or any kind of agent that you've got. What it did is essentially exported them via zip and extracted them from a temp directory and put them into my local folder here. So then we can iterate on this. What I might do is put these into a prototype folder. And what I think might be interesting is if we were to use these prototype files, but I would like to make it a real application. So I think what we could do is use something like the Pi coding agent SDK, just to play around with that, see if that can be the engine behind our little prototype that we've created and actually get something that's working for us versus just a mocked out data model behind the scenes. I just wanted to share pi.dev, and so we can look at some of the features and why this is an interesting agent harness. So it's a minimal terminal coding harness for us to use. It has extension skills, prompt templates, themes, and packages. There's a lot of support for this, just being very simplistic and easy to implement without any of the external dependencies of major model providers, etc. So this is, I think, just a fun one for us to try out with our quick prototype. Here we are with the plan session, looking at how we might implement this. For distribution, I'm just thinking self-host, so whoever's using it would just be able to run it locally. For the execution environment, I was thinking Git work trees, but I just might want to clarify. This would be intended for use on a developer machine and no server dependencies. For API keys, I think it's bring your own. For implementation, I think we're just going to say this is a standalone executable or distribution for developers running agents on their machine. So I think we can implement the entire thing at once. And there we go. We have our answers back, and let's see what we get out of that plan. Okay, Claude's created this plan for us after we gave the feedback. I've already read through this and it looks pretty good to me. Just as a refresher, we went from our prototype that has the 24 mocked agents in a grid, has some mock data behind it, and I want to see how we can go from prototype to actual functioning product here. From my experience with Claude Design and other applications I've used this in, like with any kind of prototyping output, it is kind of a hurdle to get over from that into a functioning piece of software. So there might be differences in some of the nuance of how the UI was created, and it just doesn't fit with Pi coding agent. So we'll see how that goes. But in general, I think we have a good start. We have a design that I think is going to be appealing and interesting. And let's see how this does. Okay, on a side note, if anybody knows what's going on with Claude Code's UI, I know it's a React app behind the scenes. Is there any kind of adjustment to do for this to not happen? It seems like every terminal I use it in or computer I've used it on, it seems to be doing this kind of glitched out UI after it works for a little bit. If anybody knows, please comment below. Let me know what to do to fix this. Thanks. We've got a clean build. Both the server and the UI are compiled. Now let's dive into checking this out ourselves and see what else we need to do. So it looks like we need to do an npm build and then check out the CLI. So I'm just going to ask Claude to do that. Now we've got the servers up and running. Let's go check out the agent room. Here we go. So we have the room. We don't have any agents initiated yet. Claude was just indicating that we should go to the lower right area of the console there and input one of our keys. There are multiple model providers that are shown down here, so I'll go down to this cog, and we have Anthropic selected. We can choose different model providers if we decided, but I'll go with Anthropic for now. We've got Anthropic configured. Kind of interesting. So the tweaks panel from the prototype has made its way to our implementation, which is kind of fun. So let's go with green. And our density is comfy, which is kind of fun. Let's test out if we can actually spawn an agent here. So I'll give it the path to our agent room, and I'll ask it to please create unit tests for our solution to make sure our application is stable when we start adding additional features. Let's spawn that agent and see what happens. After we triggered that agent, it did actually run, but we didn't have Git initialized on this repo yet. As you can see, it's been doing valuable work over here, creating tests, and was triggered from our agent terminal there. So let's check back in on that in a moment, and we'll test again once we have Git initialized. Our testing agent has now completed. We have 62 tests across 6 files that have been added and are now giving us good test coverage across our solution. It did uncover a little issue with the pricing of the models and how they would be reflected. So one thing I want to do is now that we have Git initialized on this repo, I want to see how we can send back a new command and then see that agent run happening within our agent room. Okay, so we're going to change the focus to a fix, and we're going to paste in the text that Claude has given us for the bug that we found. We could probably implement a better task for the agent input, but for now, that'll have to do. So we're still not seeing the agent run here. Let's investigate. Several back and forths with Claude. We are now able to get the UI updated from agents that are running and getting feedback whether or not they're working or not. You'll see from the UI, I was able to initiate a test and then get a failed state. Okay, so now we're getting a WebSocket readout from that spawned agent. It's reading the test, it's examining the files, it's editing, and let's see if it's actually going to go through. So it's got its workspace, it's got its cost tracking, and its duration of 20 seconds ago. How cool is that? It's showing our overall burn rate up top, total tokens, files, calls for tools, total agents running. Are kind of, I would call it a pretty good minimalistic view of the agent running. I like that we have some kind of visual into the last running terminal command, so it wasn't as busy as that mock-up that we had originally, and still showing some of the dynamic indicator that it's doing something. I think we could clean this up a little bit more. Actually did complete its work, and we just had a separate issue in the callback to indicate whether or not the agent was done. That's a separate issue that has been solved as well, but just wanted to highlight here the agent run that had occurred to fix the pricing issue. So here we have a couple files, the pricing file itself. We can jump over here and see that it did a sort from, I believe it was longer to shorter, to ensure that the keys were not, I guess, pre-selected before something like GPT-4o Mini, where it would be advantageous to have the longer keys first so that we did the correct selection. We also updated the pricing file so that the GPT-4o calculations would be correct, and so it updated that pricing based on the inputs and outputs of the pricing file, and then validated those, and everything is passing as well. So in addition to fixing this through the agent run, we also fixed the callback so we can test that out now and make sure everything's flowing correctly. And that's the full loop. We've gone from an idea to design to code, and now it's in GitHub. So if you want to check it out, check out the link in the description. If you like this video, please consider subscribing and like this video as well. I'd really appreciate it. It helps the channel a lot. Thanks so much, and until next time, peace.